want to preserve your privacy and make sure all the data that goes in and out of your computer is encrypted, then check out NordVPN. My affiliate link will give you something like a 2/3 discount on some of their packages. In this video, I'm going to be finding out about another cryptocurrency project that is going to bring a whole other level of privacy and security to the internet. Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. Now before I introduce our guest Jason from Qortal, please do subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Crypto Rich YT, join my official Telegram announcements channel, and please follow me on Odyssey, Crypto Rich Odyssey, which is bit.ly/Crypto Rich Odyssey. I post all my material there, plus extra material on my Odyssey channel, the like of which YouTube does not appreciate. So please come over to Odyssey. Hey, Jason, thank you so much for making yourself available. You are the lead dev, CTO, founder, something.
Okay, so I am currently one of the founders, and I like to call myself the development team facilitator because at Qortal, we do basically everything completely differently. We are trying to get rid of the whole idea that a blockchain project can even have a CEO or a CTO or anything like that, right? They're supposed to be completely distributed, decentralized, not controlled by one entity. And that now includes one single development team, right? So we try to do everything, bringing it back to the original principles of what the blockchain space was supposed to be, right? And I feel like that's been kind of completely manipulated and bastardized over especially the last few years. And we're out to try to change that perception and get people back to how it used to be, the good old days of crypto, which was actually a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we do not have any of that. I am the current development team facilitator. I am, helping put the team together. People come in from the community, they prove themselves to our development team, and they get added to the development team, right? And that's how it's going to work. We are a fully community-run project. So, yeah.
And the project is Qortal, Qortal. I'll have the links in the description below. And even though there should be a U after the Q,
yeah,
the blockchain space is full of tech is full of really badly spelled words.
Well, the way I like to explain it is it's just the word portal with a backwards P, right? And that was the original concept behind the name. Is we started with a platform called Qortal that basically no one had heard of, had some really cool technology. We have since gutted that project, kept only a few transaction types, rewritten everything. And it was initially meant to be just the trade portal, which is now just one of the plugins inside of Qortal, a cross-chain trade platform that trades from level 1 blockchain to level 1 blockchain, no wrapping tokens, nothing, right? So it was originally just meant to be the trade portal. So the word Qortal is just portal with a backwards P, and it makes it a little easier for people to remember, I think. So I like to say it like that.
So what is Qortal?
Okay, so like I said, it was originally supposed to be just a trade platform, and then we were going to build another platform that was going to do all the rest of the stuff that does web hosting, communications, all kinds of data storage, everything that's necessary to actually build a new internet that is built completely P2P with no middleman in any transaction, right? So I know it's a lofty goal, and when I say this, people are like, oh yeah, right, because there have been a lot of others that have attempted this, and they always end up with some sort of centralization. They're doing things that use a domain, yada, yada, yada. There's always something there that's still a problem, right? And there is with Qortal too, right? But it's just the internet, right? So right now we use the internet to communicate. And that is something that we're also going to be getting rid of in the longer term future. As our network gets large enough, we will start establishing what are called mesh networks in different locations. And eventually those mesh networks will be able to bridge together. Now, we will also need something to communicate over oceans and so forth. And that's something that's a little bit further down the line. So I won't quite get into that yet. But what we have now is the ability to host websites, do all kinds of communications, instant messaging, stuff like that, cross-chain trading, 6 different local wallets on top of your Qort wallet. So Qortal is not just a single coin. It is an actual decentralized ecosystem that has multiple supported coins in local wallets that you can trade directly from one blockchain to another in the trade portal. You can do your communications, your Telegram-like stuff in QChat, which is just a demo of some of the communication stuff that we can do. You can publish a website on a registered name that you pay one fee for, that lasts forever, indefinitely. Until you decide to take that website down, it will be up forever on our distributed, decentralized data network that we call QDN, or Qortal Data Network. So there's a lot to it. It's not just, one simple thing. I can't just say, yo, it's a coin that protects your privacy, right? It is a base level infrastructure replacement for what we have now, which people call the system, right? Everything from the internet to economic stuff to trading, everything. It's literally a replacement for everything that we use our computers for right now, to be done in a completely P2P way, with no one in the middle taking fees for anything, and everything being built in a method that's able to be controlled by the individual user. So there's a lot to that, and you can kind of help me break it down in a way that your people are going to understand. But yeah.
What? Why can't you just be like, oh, we're a coin and nobody can see it, right?
Yeah. That would be a lot easier to talk about, but, we've been building this for a very long time. This is not something new for me. I've been in the crypto space since 2013. That was when I first heard you can make money, magic internet money, with your, computer at home, called mining. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? So I became really interested in that. I got really deep into the hardware side because I've always been a hardware guy, building machines, networks, all kinds of stuff, right? So that was always my hobby. And so I learned about mining. I was like, this is great. But as time went on, right, I realized that there are flaws. Now, they're not technical flaws, so people jump on my case when I say there are flaws with proof of work and so forth, right? But there are flaws with this. And now they're more of a philosophical flaw that if you think about it and how it's going to play out long term, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I believe that most of the other proofs and how blockchains are powered in the space right now, proof of work, proof of stake, those are able to be manipulated by money, right? And the entire concept of the original blockchain ideals, right, was to remove and replace this fiat money. Now, if we replace it with something that's able to be manipulated by it, now that in my opinion, that's a problem, right? So that is something that we wanted to prevent and make not possible at the very base level, and then kind of move from there and add a lot more functionality than just economic stuff to the blockchain. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's very, very clear coming through to me is your passion for what you're doing, right? And
Yes.
forgive me, Jason, I may need to suppress your passion to keep this moving.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So when did Qortal launch? Did you do? These are some basic questions I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
When did it launch? Did you do an ICO? Where did the money go? All that sort of business. Have you disappeared yet and run off with a bag full of coins?
Okay, so I personally have been around with the same username through multiple different projects. I started the development team for another project back right at like 6 months after I got into the crypto space, because they needed help and they lost their only developer after 6 months. I've been around with the same name since then, so people can track me, see everything that I posted back when I was young and kind of ridiculous on the forums, saying all kinds of nonsense. They can go back and look and see all that, right? And so I've done that on purpose so that there would be a base level of trust just behind my name, so that people know if I'm involved in a project, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
And the same with the developers who've been with me basically since then. We've been, coming up with these ideas since the time, right? So nearly 10 years now.
Because I was asking, when did Qortal start?
Okay, so it launched June. Oh man, I always forget the exact date. June 20th, 2020, I think. I'd have to look that up. Don't quote me on that one. But
if anybody from the community, from Qortal community, is watching, please let us know in the comment below when it did start, right?
And I should have had those links up and ready.
No problem.
Okay, right? So but yeah, we've been working on it since 2013, coming up with ideas, getting the team together, the team. It was meant always to be a project run by the people contributing, so the community, right? It's meant to be launched that way. There was no ICO. We launched from block zero, and it has been minted since then, right?
Okay.
So that is how, a legitimate project is launched.
Sure.
Everything is completely open source. Everything is available to the community. It was launched from block zero and minted from there. And that is, the only projects that we will support, or that I will vote for support for, because it's not ultimately up to me what happens in the future, right? It's meant to be controlled literally by the community as well. I will only support projects that were launched in a fair fashion. And that's why right now we support Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Digibyte, Ravencoin, and Pirate Chain. And that's it. We will be, of course, supporting others, and supporting Pirate Chain with real cross-chain trades, by the way, was not simple. That took a little bit of work.
Okay.
And we have a local wallet for them too. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
You know, I'm a first mate of the good ship Pirate Chain.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
I'm one of the team at Pirate Chain.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which
Awesome.
is a fully decentralized privacy crypto. Oh, you got Pirate Chain in there. Okay, well, I should be letting.
Yeah. See, we have a fully functional pirate wallet in Qortal, including the ability to use memos. So you can use Pirate's encryption to send messages if you like, if you don't trust our messaging system, whatever, right? So yeah, we definitely got that already there. And that was something where we literally had to build our own pirate wallet to work inside of Qortal. So that tells you a little bit of how good our development team is too, because, you know, as a team member of Pirate, you know how difficult it is to work on ZK Snarks based stuff, right? So yeah.
And I know Pirate Chain has recently just got integrated into Komodo's Atomic Dex, which is a decentralized exchange which does 2 atomic swaps. And I've been told how difficult that is, right?
Yes.
So I've got some idea. I'm not technical minded. So Qortal does atomic swaps then?
Yeah, so actually, I believe the term atomic actually came from our smart contract. Smart contract. I don't like calling it smart contracts because it's not the same as the nonsense ETH smart contracts that exist. So actually, I call it by its technical name, which is AT, or automated transactions. So we have this system called AT. It is a custom hardware level programming language that's Turing complete that functions as a virtual CPU that runs on top of the blockchain. Now, with that, you can do things like, you know, automatic payments, cross-chain trades, and the term atomic actually came from our AT called Atomic Cross-Chain Trade, ACCT, that term atomic, right? And now that's been taken and used for atomic swaps. And they're similar ideas. They do the same thing, but I don't think they're executed exactly the same way. It's a close, very close thing where, yes, if they're both doing it the right way, they're doing one chain directly to another. How it happens exactly in the middle might be a little bit different, but it involves locking transactions. So it's a similar concept for sure. And
it's too technical than I want to get into. But for people who don't know, what it essentially means is that it allows for a peer-to-peer exchange from one chain to another chain, and the transaction goes through for both, or it doesn't go through at all.
Yep.
So that's very good. Okay. And you said earlier about Qortal being minted. So
yes.
What's that process?
Okay, so we have our own consensus mechanism that is, I like to call it, if people don't, you know, because minting, we just call it minting because it's simple. Or people always want to hear like what kind of proof it is. Like, it's proof of what? I'm like, okay, fine. It's proof of contribution over time plus memory proof of work. So it's not simple either. Like, so a lot of the stuff, right, that I'll talk about at the technical level is not simple, right? To build a platform like what Qortal is, of course, it's not going to be simple, right? But on the front end, in the Qortal UI, the user interface, we make it as simple as possible. I sat my mother down in front of it and said, Mom, create an account. And she was able to do it, right? So we want the front end to be as simple as possible. We want the running of a node to be as simple as possible, because to be 100% decentralized, this means that every user, in theory, in best practices, will run a full node, right? So you're communicating only to your own computer, and it's a completely decentralized distributed setup. And that is what we do now. Every single user on the Qortal network, as it sits now, runs a full node. We will have light nodes, and those light nodes will use our full node network, so it won't need a separate light node network, which makes it a little bit more robust as well, so that's cool. But we focused primarily, especially at the beginning, after the launch, making sure that setting up and running a full node was as simple as possible, and that every user was to do that and help us expand the full node network first. So we have a solid base of large full node network, good to go, right? Like, that's always one of the primary focuses that should be a thing on most all blockchains. Now, as we've seen recently, in the very recent past and a little bit further back in the crypto space, which I don't even like the connotation to that space lately because everything's so bastardized, but they're not focusing on what they should be, right? They're focusing on, oh, how much did the ICO raise? Like all of these other things. Oh, are you listed on every centralized exchange that we can name right now? And if not, why not, right? They're not focused on how many full nodes do you have on your network? How many people can actually use your network without the help of a service provider that requires some sort of centralized authentication and potentially holds your coins on your behalf and makes you sign some agreement with them? Like, That's the anti-crypto, guys. Like, we're supposed to have full control, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
So you have proof of capacity over time and proof of work. No, proof of contribution over time, and then proof of work over time, and then people can go dig into the details more by joining the community and checking out the website and everything.
So
right?
essentially, it's really straightforward. You need to get a key to get started. You need to get a key from another mentor who's level 5 or higher, who's already been in the system for a while and got up to level 5. Once you can get that key from any of these people, once you get that key, you assign it to your node. 7,200 blocks goes by with that key. Then you're back on your own again. The person who gave you that key doesn't get anything for it. And you can then start minting on your own. You create your own key, you assign that key to your node, and it submits signatures on your behalf at every block, right? Another difference with the minting system versus proof of work, proof of stake, we've removed the competition from it. It's essentially a massive distributed mining pool, the entire network, right? So there's no way to centralize the power because there's no power to centralize. So every person who submits a minting signature as the block goes by gets credited for that submission based on how many blocks they've already minted that gets them into a level. And that level then decides their reward. And the blocks minted in the near future when we implement the voting system, which we would have done sooner, but we had to solve the one game that could be played, which is self-sponsorship, right? Obviously, people are, what if people decide to sponsor themselves? And yes, that will always be a thing. Now, we've done as much as we can to limit that and to get rid of the fake accounts from the past rights to mint and sponsor with a hard fork that we just did recently. That was not a lot of fun, and I hope we don't have to do something like that in the near future again. But yeah, now we are left with what I would consider a much more legitimate base of minters. And the whole idea behind it was get the people that you know in person or that you know for sure are real over the internet and have them join. As you level up, you become the ability to, or you gain the ability to sponsor. Sorry, somebody's calling me. Stupid phone. You gain the ability to sponsor. You bring in people that you know. And then over time, they gain the ability to sponsor and they do the same thing. It was meant to grow like that, right? We start with a super legitimate group of people. And from there, they expand out that legitimate group with their legitimate friends. And that was how it was meant to grow. And it's literally meant to be able to allow anyone to participate with any computer. Well, okay, not if it's like 40 years old, right? Like the first computer ever is not going to work, right?
No,
but so yeah, a normal computer, you should be able to participate. And that was the idea behind Bitcoin and everything in the beginning that now leads to where most people can't do that. And money now controls most of these chains, right? So we're getting rid of that, right?
Okay, and then how many coins are created per block? The coin is called Qortal, right?
Yeah, QORT is the coin.
Qort. Okay, and how many are created each block? How long is the block? And how many in total?
Okay, so the block rewards started out at 5 Qort per block. The block time is 60 seconds, so in theory, there could be 1440 blocks per day. The block time hasn't been exactly 60 seconds, so it's been averaging between 65 and 85 seconds. We're going to dial that in a little bit more with some tweaks to the consensus as time goes on, but it's close enough for now, and so it's okay. The block reward it started at 5 Qort per block, and it goes down by 0.25 every 6 months in blocks until it reaches 2. Once it reaches 2, it stays there forever unless a specific type of vote that can take place once per year in blocks takes place. That vote can raise or lower it by up to 1 in 0.25 increments. And so it can go from 2 up to potentially 3 or 2.5 or 2.25 or down to potentially 1 or 1.5 or 1.75, whatever, right? The community makes that decision if that vote takes place. If not, it stays at 2 indefinitely, right?
Right.
So there is no cap on the total, only a cap on the block reward. And that cap on the block reward can be modified by that vote of the community. So the community basically decides whether more or less coin get created each year that goes by, right? If they want to.
And what's the thinking behind this emission rate with no end and I suppose I can get the community vote because then people have a say, right?
Right.
But the thinking behind the emission rate, as you described.
So the primary use case of the coin is not meant to be just a cryptocurrency, right? It was meant to be, yes, used to pay people and so forth too, because it's a fast confirmation and it's quite good for that too. And if you want, a lot of things can be traced on the chain because transparency, I think so. A lot of the things people take issue with transparent chains. The main problem is that there are a lot of centralized service providers that attach an identity to certain addresses. So then, there's an identity associated. So that ends up being a problem. So I believe that both transparency and privacy have their use cases, right? So, and we will have a privacy transaction type in the future. We've already planned one that will work really well, especially since we don't have change addresses in Qortal. So like our chain works differently. It'll make things a lot better. But okay, so the idea behind not having a cap on the total is that this coin is meant to be utilized. It's not meant to be just held and held for future value, Yes, you can do that too. And right now there are only 5 million Qort in existence. And our total market cap is basically what I've personally invested into the development of the project over the last 10 years, right? So it's insane with all the functionality that we have, and we're so far ahead of most other platforms as far as being completely distributed and decentralized and having these functionality, so it's crazy, right? But yes, you can totally, buy and hodl and do that. But the idea behind it is not to just do that. It is meant to power literally a lot of different things on the platform. Now, one of those primary things that's going to be happening in the relatively near future, and what happens already now, is name registration, which leads to the ability to host a website indefinitely for free, right? And you can take that name in the future and you can sell that name to someone else who can pick up where you left off without changing any hosting or servers or anything and start editing that site. And now we're going to be able to have a website, a Git repo, which is going to be huge just for all open source projects to be able to get away from GitHub and get onto a completely distributed, decentralized version of GitHub is going to be awesome, right? So every name is going to have the ability to have a website, a Git repo, an application, public and private data, and all of the followers of that name. All of that can be sold all at once. So like an entire brand can be built on a name and sold at once to someone else. And so the names market and name registration and so forth is going to be one of the primary use cases for the foreseeable future on the use of Qort. And now people should be willing to utilize the coin. And so the problem with a coin that has a cap like Bitcoin, where it's 21 million and that's it, right? Is it leads to the miser mentality where, oh, I must hoard and I must hold this and never use it, and like that's not the idea behind Qortal. Yes, we do have that potential too, because with such a low amount of coins, it's obvious that holding it will make sense as well, especially because the network grows and more people get involved. But the primary idea behind it is that it's utilized, and so people don't. I think that it'll help with the mentality of, I just want to hoard this and hold it and never do anything with it, right? So that was the idea.
Okay, so you got the website hosting, you got a messaging app, you got a multi-currency wallet, which you got a trading portal for cross-chain exchanges, and some of this stuff is live, like the trading exchange.
All that you just mentioned is live. Yeah,
it's all live. So, for example, if I wanted to set up a website, I could set it up using Qortal. It would be fully decentralized. How come it's fully decentralized, and what happens if somebody turns the internet off?
Okay, so at the moment, that is the only quote unquote weakness to Qortal. If the entire internet, now I mean all of it, not just the Qortal communications port or blocking that, whatever, and I mean every country all at once for a long period of time, that would have to happen, right? So that's kind of an apocalyptic type scenario, in my opinion. If every country in the world were to shut off the internet all at the same time, I think we have bigger things to worry about than whether Qortal is running or not, right?
So water like that. It's like that.
Yeah. So I think that yes, that is a concern, right? But it's not one that I try to put a lot of focus on, because that's literally the only thing that they can do, right? And so anything else, we're going to be just fine. Like whether a whole country is not connected anymore or not, yes, they won't be able to mint for that time, and they'll only be able to use the sites that they currently had. But that's it, right? Then they get back connected to the network, sync back up, and they're good to go, right? And so, you can put up a website on QDN. And the coolest part about this, right? Well, one of the other cool parts, there's lots of cool parts about this, but you register that name one time. Right now, that costs you 1.25 Qort, which at these ridiculous prices is basically 70 cents. if you want to convert it to fiat, because we don't have any fiat markets, so you convert to Litecoin, then to fiat, or to whatever other supported coin to fiat, right? So you pay this tiny amount, you own that name indefinitely. Then you can take and you can publish data for free, no transaction fee. We use the memory proof of work that's also part of our consensus to submit these transactions to prevent spam, so forth. So we don't have to have a transaction fee on it. Same thing with QChat transactions. So these transactions are actually completely free on the mainnet. And so you can publish data without any cost whatsoever. Once you have that name, once you own it forever, you can update that name's data as many times as you like. People can follow your name and make copies of that data for you. So, and anyone who views it by default makes a copy of it as well. So not every single person on the network is forced to store a copy, because that's how the original Core project worked, and they had actual data on the blockchain itself. So you had to synchronize that data in order to have a node. Now I'm like, how is this going to scale? Like, right? How can this work? Everyone's computer can't store the entire internet. It's not going to work, right? So that scalability was a massive problem with that project. And so to fix that, what we've done is, instead of putting the data itself on the blockchain, we take the whole site, we zip it up, right, into a zip. You publish that zip, it goes, it gets extracted, it gets encrypted, it gets hashed. All of those hashes for every single file then get put into another file, which is a list of those hashes. Then that file gets hashed, and one single hash then goes on the chain. And now if that one single hash is modified in any way, that then says, okay, so one of these files has been modified, so that hash is now different, right? And so we can then track with that one single hash whether any of these other files have changed. If that changes, then it's, oh, this site has changed, modified data, all the followers pick it up, and you're good to go. The data on the back end is encrypted and chunked. So no matter what, unless you specifically click to view that site, you will not see anything. And anyone accessing your machine, unless you have a built copy of that site that you had just viewed and you didn't clear your built copy, there's no way for them to view that data, right? Without having a Qortal account set up and accessing it, there's no way that, so if someone just has your hard drive and they don't know specifically that you had this built in Qortal, it's just going to look like complete nonsense, right? Same thing with all the data transmitted on the back end.
Okay, now if I want, are there many websites being run on Qortal?
Oh yes, actually, there are quite a few already. I can show you if you like.
Sure.
Yeah, so let me do a little screen share here, because I think I wanted to show, instead of just talking about this, because I feel like when people see it and they see how simple it is, then it makes them more likely to want to get it set up, because just talking about it, some people are like, wow, this sounds amazing, but it sounds really complex and I'm not going to be able to do this, right? So I like to show it just to, alleviate those concerns as well, because we did a lot of testing on this UI to make sure that it was as simple as possible, and we've made it even simpler since the launch. But
it looks very simple,
right? Yeah. So there are two options here, right? So I'm going to create a new account just so people can see how simple that is as well. Now, you don't even have to read this, but this is just basically like giving a little background and showing, like, I wanted this to feel like a game. I wanted basically to turn life into a game. So when I wrote a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to modify some of it, but yeah, so basically it tells you can click this here to show your seed phrase. We by default say that that's not really necessary, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's probably better not to show it. So you can just click next through this. Now this name here is a display name. So I'll be like, display name, I choose easy account, right? And you make up a password, confirm it. Now this is just encrypting this, so obviously you're not dealing with a server here. In fact, you can do this part of it without even having the Qortal core running at all. The UI has its own encryption engine, so all of this stuff is done completely local in the UI only. So you create it like that, and you're good to go. Right now, it'll pop up a download. I'm not sure if you can see the download because it's only showing the Qortal screen, but it pops up a download box to save the backup file, which is just an encrypted copy of your account. You click save. If it didn't pop up for you, you can click this button and save it again. And that's it. You're good to go. You're in your account. So creating accounts basically next, download, finish, right? So we made sure it was very straightforward. And now what we're talking about specifically now is the websites. So you can see here we've got how many per page? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we've got 11 pages. So 18 times 11 is what number of websites we have up currently, right? And so, like I said, these sites, all you have to do is register the name. And you can see over here where it says this information right there. That is the registered name. And if you want, like, so say you want to see my website. So you search Crow, and it'll come up with all of them that have the name Crow in it. And Crowetic is my personal website. And on my personal website, I show a little bit of basic demos of what QDN can accomplish now. So when you click the name, as you can see here, it first downloads the files, then it builds the site. Now, building, what that means is putting the chunks together from the encrypted and chunked files, and then decrypting it, and then displaying it, right? So once you've got a copy, now, since I've clicked this, and I have a copy, let me mute the notifications here. We've got someone who is a little perturbed about our latest hard fork, and has been spamming QChat by creating a new address each time he sends a message for the past week. So that's getting taken care of with the next update, but until then, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the notifications so that beeping sound doesn't continue to happen. So once I've loaded that site one time, it will load instantly from that point on. And everything else on the site is going to be as instant as possible. As you can see, there's no loading times in between because you're accessing it from your own computer. And so you can see I have a bit of a blog here where I've posted a bunch of information. I have this cool image on the other site. Whoops, sorry, I forgot to change that link. That's a link to the site builder that I actually used to build this. And that's actually a good idea to show people too, because you can build a website for Qortal very easily with this tool. But anyway, so I have this cool image here, Internet of the New World, right? That's what I like to call it. You can also do things like publish videos, and everything loads instantly, as instant as possible, because it's loading from your computer, right? Now, any site on QDN is going to be built in this fashion. And in the next set of functionality that we're adding to QDN, we'll be able to do the same thing, but with applications. And we're going to call it Q apps as that extra layer of functionality. We will be able to do things like YouTube replacements, Twitter replacements, Facebook replacements, all of that, right? And so what we've built now is a demo of some of the functionality that it can accomplish, and it's barely scratching the tip of the surface of what is actually possible with this network. And so I wanted to just kind of show that and these are some of the websites that are up. You can come through, click any single one of them that you want to see. It'll download that data, and you will become a peer for it, so someone else could potentially download that data from you from that point on. Now, the followed websites is where you can follow a name that you like. So say you, Crypto Rich, had a site here, and I say, oh, I trust him. I want to follow his site and make it so that he's got another redundant copy with my node no matter what, right? And so you follow a site, and you become a redundant copy for every pushed update as well. So it's not just the one copy that you viewed, which happens when you view it. It's ever updating copies of whatever you change, right? So it's really, really cool because that's some of the things that other decentralized data storage networks are missing, in my opinion, is that ability. You need to basically always pay attention to who's publishing things and always get the new versions yourself, which expecting everyone to do that is, not super realistic, in my opinion. So we've tried to make everything as easy and straightforward as possible. And once you've got a Qortal node running and the Qortal UI and the Qortal core set up and going, there are two pieces to it. The core takes care of all the blockchain stuff. The UI takes care of all the account stuff. They both have their own encryption engines. So the UI does the signing of the transactions and everything. It only submits a signed transaction to the core in most cases. There are a few cases where that isn't the case, but that's only during a trade, because the trade bot on the core side needs to have access to the private data for that trade information in order to execute that trade on your behalf, that's the only thing. So the only thing that could potentially be in the core that has private data is for one specific trade on the trade portal. Now I can kind of show you some of that too. If you feel free to interrupt me.
I want to go back to the website page.
Sure.
I have a question about that. So you have 11 pages with about 17 websites on each page, right?
Right.
Which is tiny compared to the number of website pages in existence. So
right.
we really are at the beginning, right? We really are at the beginning, right?
We've been live only 2 years, right? And QDN has only been alive for year of those 2 years. So
Sure.
and this is a completely new, completely distributed and decentralized concept that people have to install the software on their own computer in order to use, right? Because we do it in a way that's completely decentralized. And now people don't really fully understand the impact or what's behind all of that, right? It means that we need every user to put in a little bit of effort and set up a node, right? And that's how every decentralized platform should have been from the beginning. But
Sure.
they all lead to these centralized things, and it's becoming a problem.
Yeah, and it will grow and grow and grow over time, Jason.
Right.
Now, so somebody in China or Iran or Saudi Arabia, I mean, there you could have, or in any other country, you have resistance movements using Quartal because it would bypass local sensors as long as they can get, I suppose, to GitHub to download or
Hmm.
to get to this website, and they can do
Right.
that
They can
by
get the software installed. They're good. Yeah.
yeah, okay, and then you have ways of communicating
Yep.
information. But what if, like, when I go on the internet, I might have 10, 12, 20 tabs open of different websites,
Right.
right? Isn't there a risk of my computer getting all this data, it taking time and then getting clogged up?
No. I mean, potentially, but not like what you're thinking. It doesn't have data continually going back and forth like it would if you. So it's actually using more data for you to have a website open that has continued communication, right? Because you're continually using data. With this, you grab the site one time and you don't need to worry about it anymore unless the site updates and you need some more data from it, right? That also means you can't be tracked by, metadata, tracking cookies, all that kind of stuff. That's literally just not possible on Quartal. So there's a lot of cool parts about it. If you want, you can also, I forget how to do it on Mac. Oh, there we go. I don't know if you can see this because I'm only sharing one screen. But you can command click or center click on Linux machine, and you can open another copy of the Quartal UI, and you can
Right.
log into another account. We will make this easier as time goes on. This is like
Sure.
still only 2 years into actual development, right? So we've been doing a lot of development before that, but this is 2 years into live development, and so there's a lot that, like, if you had seen when we first launched compared to now, you'd be like, holy crap, you guys have improved a massive amount. So yeah, like
I, I, can, I can
it'll
get that.
continue to get easier.
I can get that from seeing the first sort of internet, the first internet messaging systems, right?
Uh-huh.
It's compared to email. Okay,
Right.
show us through some of the other applications. So
Yeah.
this is the
So
wallet.
yeah, this is your wallet. So you've got obviously the Qortal wallet, which is the Qort wallet. Then Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Digibyte, Ravencoin, and Pirate Chain, as I mentioned before. So
Yeah.
you have local wallets for each of those. You click in and you'll see the primary wallet. So at the moment, our wallets, they're not able to generate new addresses. They can do that because they use a master key. But if you want to have another address to receive, you can just create another Qortal account, and that'll give you another master key and display that for now. But we will have the option to, generate addresses because we use master keys. It is possible. We just haven't added that functionality into the UI yet. So there are a few little things, improvements like that we would like to have that we don't quite have yet. But we have focused primarily on, for the next few months, our focus is going to be mostly on getting towards Q apps because we want to have the YouTube replacement. We want to have the GitHub replacement. I feel like those two things are critical right now in what's going on in the world, and people will really be, wanting to utilize something like that. And so since Qortal is a base level infrastructure platform, we can build essentially anything on top of it, right? So people need to kind of grasp that at first because all these things, we're just building demos right now.
Yeah.
Once we get the next layer of functionality and we have Q apps and so forth, people will be able to build their own applications without our assistance as a Q app that does whatever they want to do. Now, a storefront, whatever, right? Like they can do all this stuff themselves. We just need to, get a little further along, have a little bit more of the functionality. Right now, you can do a website. That's all these websites were published by anyone, right? And so we're getting there. Right. And
Okay.
our primary focus now is to get to Q apps because that will then allow all kinds of new development to happen outside of just our development team,
Sure. Now, just on this wallet, and actually it would apply to the other stuff, right? So supposing I had some Bitcoin in there, how do I know that no one else is going to have access to that? There's no counterparty risk, I take it, right?
None. Yeah. So these are all local wallets. The only thing that we utilize right now, because we don't want to enforce everyone to run a full node for each of these coins. That would require a lot of extra storage space. We do want to have that option in the future. So like over here, we'll have like a little menu where you can say launch full node for this. So you can do that if you choose to, but we use the light node networks for these. But that's about it. So all of the rest of it, the private key is controlled only by you. All of the stuff is signed and then submitted to the Electrum network. So it's not, there's no risk here. It's all controlled by you only. You can dump the private keys for any of these and import them into another wallet if you choose to. We don't have that easily done in the UI yet either, but it is possible. And if you have, the will to do it, then you can make it happen. So there's nothing here that's not controlled by the user. And so, there's no counterparty risk. There's nothing that can happen as far as anybody getting into these wallets unless you let them. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. All right. Do you want to stop sharing?
Yeah, sure.
Very good. Now, Jason, I'm going to cut this bit out that I'm about to say.
Sure.
So I've got a hard stop because in 15 minutes, someone else is going to come in on this call, right? A mate of mine, because I'm recording with him. So
Okay.
we've got about 5-10 minutes to finish up, unless you want to join my mate. We'll be talking politics and things like that, right? It'll be a different video.
Yeah, I don't have too many opinions on politics other than most of it shouldn't exist at all, and we're going to replace all that too.
That's a very political statement. But okay. Yeah. All right, so I'll pause, and then if there's anything else that we want to cover, right? Okay.
Okay, so I know there's a lot to this, and my main message here is this, right? If you at all care about what's happening in the world, if you at all care about all of these things that we see that to me are just unbelievable, right? We need a solution to that. We need technology's not going anywhere, right? Like people who think, oh, we could just go back to, bartering with silver. Yeah, in idealistic, post-apocalyptic land maybe, but technology's here to stay, right? So we need a technological platform that can allow people to do everything that we do now, but in a way that's actually controlled by them, and in a way that is not requiring of licenses and anybody in between that tells you can do this or any of that, right? And so we need that digital infrastructure, and Qortal is that digital infrastructure. And I've not seen any other platform that comes close as far as doing everything the right way. And yes, it means it's harder for us. It means it's harder for us to get users. It means it's harder for us to get people to pay attention to the markets. It means it's harder for us to do everything. But that doesn't matter, right? The only way that something like this can work is to be built this way. It has to be built correctly, right? And so my main message here is, if you think what I'm saying is cool, and even if you think you couldn't do it, right? Just jump into our community. We have people there 24/7 who will walk you through it. And a lot of those people were people who had no idea what they were doing, stumbled in there and said, this sounds cool, help me, right? And now they're helping others get set up. So that's the whole idea here. We're building a community. It's a movement. It's something that should actually be able to free and allow people to build their own destiny in a new system. It is not something that we're trying to improve things that exist. No, we feel like the stuff that exists is so bad at this point that it needs to be wiped out and replaced. Now, we're not doing the wiping out part. All we're doing is making a replacement, starting it, letting it run. If people decide to, they can come over and use it, right? And that's, the only way, the saying, what is it? If you want to make something obsolete, you just make something better and people will use it, right? And so that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're making something better. It's definitely better at the base level, and it's better in the fact that you literally do have full control over all the things you do and everything on Qortal, right? From the data to the transactions to everything. And so we are trying to provide that new internet, right? The new infrastructure for everything to take place, for the people to be free. It's straightforward. Yeah.
That sounds fabulous, and it's important and valuable and necessary, and it's decentralized and it's censorship resistant, and it
censorship proof.
Censorship proof, and gives us autonomy and sovereignty. All these features are incredibly, incredibly important. Now, is there anything else you want to say that you haven't said that you think is important for people to know?
Okay, so also I do a little bit of self-promotion sometimes at the end here. I do run a company. That company is called Croetic Hardware Development. It's me, my brother, and my partner G. So the three of us, we build devices specifically built to run Qortal. The idea behind these is that they're open source hardware and software, and they are able to run Qortal. They're based off of Raspberry Pi 4 right now. The next version is going to be based off of a Rock Pi, which is even more open. And so you can purchase one of these devices, set it in the corner, runs on 5 volts of power, and it can run forever and mint for you and do all your stuff, right? Be your node for your house. Or now I've also offered another service where I'm rebuilding laptops with newer generation processors, disabling all the things that do not need to be there, Intel Management Engine, the TPM, all of these things, disabling as much of that as I can in the BIOS, and then disabling the rest of it by installing Linux, because most of it can't even work with Linux, and configuring that Linux to look and feel and function as much like Windows as possible, so that people can make an easy switch from utilizing the centralized controlled crap called Microsoft Windows to utilizing something that functions and looks and feels very similarly, but is much better at the base level. And of course, automating Qortal as much as possible so that it's already there, already running. You don't need to do anything. So if you have no clue on how to set this up, even if we walk you through it and you think there's no way I could ever do this, you can just go to crowetic.com, which is just my username, Crowetic, CROWETIC.com, and grab a device from us. I try to keep the prices as low as possible on these rebuilt machines, and the Cortector, same thing. We want people to be able to join the network, even if you have no idea how to set this stuff up and you think you can't figure it out. So yeah, that's one little self-promotion there is, we do sell those things. We open source company too. So yeah.
Jason, thank you. I'll have the link to that in the description below, and also the links to Qortal. I do invite people to go check it out and investigate this. And not just this project, but lots and lots of other projects that are promoting self-sovereignty, decentralization, privacy, because without those, we are not free. So we have to take whatever steps we can to ensure our freedom. Jason, thank you so much. Everybody who's watching, thank you for watching. Comments, questions in the description below. Follow me, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey. Join my official Telegram announcements channel and follow me on Twitter. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with decentralized profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Crowetic signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.